If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This has been another episode sponsored by Online Horse College. If you haven't had a look at the wide variety of equine-specific accredited courses, then go to onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there. Sophie Barrington at Archer Creative gives a wide variety of service to help you increase your bottom line through investment in marketing dollars. If you need help with copywriting, public relations, social media, email marketing, graphic design, or website design, then talk to Sophie. Simply go to horsechats.com, search for Sophie, search for Barrington, or search for Archer Creative, and you'll be able to get her contact details there. Now, today we're going to talk to Neil Davies. It's fantastic for you to be here, Neil. Thanks for your time. How are you today?
Oh, good. Thanks, sir. Great to be here.
Oh, look, really looking forward to talking to you. I'm going to read a little bit of information about Neil. So Neil's philosophy is a bit different to popular horse trainers. While they use fear and dominance, Neil uses trust and confidence and understanding. He believes teaching every horse every step of the way. Training horses is in Neil's blood. He grew up learning from his father and his grandfather and worked with horses and cattle every day. By the time Neil was a teenager, he'd ridden more horses and more miles than most people ride in their lifetime. By the mid-1980s, he was travelling around USA, Australia and New Zealand, giving clinics and exhibition, wowing crowds in his horse training ability. And then fast forward to 2011, Neil was growing more disgusted about the trend of chasing terrifying horses in the name of training. So he sat down and wrote a book, Everything That Horses Has Taught Him Over the Last 50 Years. So that book was released in 2013 and had more than 8,000 copies, had been sold to all corners of the globe. And today Neil's going to talk and share his knowledge just about horses and about things that he's learned in his time with horses. So, Neil, we normally start off with a favourite quote. Have you got a quote you could tell us about?
Well, I don't have a quote as such, but I guess my basic thing that I always say is that the horse is never wrong. Your horse never does the wrong thing. He only does what he's learned or what he sees as being easiest under the circumstances. So I think that forms the basis of how I think, that the horse is never wrong. The horse is always correct.
Okay. I think that's an important message for people to remember too, that the horse is never wrong. So, Neil, your background, you grew up from your father and grandfather, working with horses, working with cattle, but how did you get into the teaching in the clinics and things like that? Were people just asking you? Did it just grow? Or did you see someone that inspired you and you thought you could do that? How did you start with that?
Well, I worked from the age of about 20. I used to start horses under saddle back in those days, back in the 70s. It was a hard way to make a living. The only way you could make a living out of horses was, taking horses to start under saddle.
Yeah.
And I did that for 10 or 15 years. And actually I had an injury that's got nothing to do with horses. It made going out riding horses all day, every day became impossible for me. So I just looked at, I thought, well, I've got to I'd like to have a say on this subject. And I just started, back then I made some videos and was one of the first to be selling videos. And then from that we got into doing clinics and what have you. Yeah.
Yep. So just thinking about that, I mean, obviously your father and your grandfather influenced you quite a bit. Is there anyone else that you'd like to talk about that's influenced you?
I think my biggest influence has been the horses I've worked with. I don't think there's anyone that I certainly didn't learn what I know off anyone else in particular, but just going out in the yard every day and having to work with 10 or 15 horses day after day. And not only that, I always had the idea that there must be a way around every horse. I didn't think every time, people, even today, a horse, they take great pride in watching saddling a horse up and it bucks around and they flap something at it and think, gee, isn't this great? Every time I see a horse buck, or every time I had a horse buck when I was starting on the saddle, I saw it as a failure. I thought, what have I done wrong? Why is that horse frightened? Why is he bucking? And that's how you learn. You don't learn by just saying, well, that's got to happen. That should be accepted. But in my mind, that should never be accepted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that, I just went out every day trying to find a way and trying to work out how we could get around every horse. And that's what's got me to where I am.
Yeah. And I'm sure, during your clinics you've met a lot of people, but when you meet someone, and I'm just thinking about someone young who says they're really keen, they want a career with horses, but what sort of core skills or character traits does someone need to be to commence this type of career? What sort of person do they need to be?
Well, that's a hard one. I think I wrote once, you've got to be pig-headed to the point of, of madness at times, and you've got to be soft and gentle, but you've got to know when to be both, and that's the most difficult part. But I think that the hardest part is someone, a lot of people say, I want to work with horses, I want to be a horse person. But it's really the dedication. Not many people really want to dedicate the time and effort needed, and I don't think people realise just how difficult a game it is, and you've really got to dedicate yourself to it and put in the hours and the time. It's not going to happen overnight, that's for sure.
Yes, because I know that on your bio you said that as a teenager you'd ridden more miles and more horses than most people ride in their lifetime. But I'm sure you look back now to when you're a teenager and think, well, I've learned a lot since then. So the time that you spent since a teenager is more over and above what most people spend with horses in their lifetime.
Probably. I mean, we used to. My father had cattle on a bush run, and school holidays and weekends we'd often be, spent down in camping in the bush and looking for cattle and mustering and what have you. And not many people today have that sort of life, I guess. And it's a different world today. So yeah, it's probably an unusual way to be brought up, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was lucky in a lot of ways. So. So I don't know how you replicate that, but that's life.
What thinking about horse people though, thinking about someone who might stand out above the others. What have you got that other people don't have that makes you stand out above the others? Or other, usually talk about top competitors or specialists, but for someone to have that special gift with horses, what makes you be like that? What makes you want to put in the time to learn about horses and to go that bit further than everyone else?
Yeah, I can't really answer that. I just know that all I wanted to do when I was young was work with horses and try and. I found great mental. I still do great mental pleasure in working with a horse and getting into his mind and getting him cooperating and teaching him, and that's what I find that very satisfying. And I guess what I would, if someone said to me, "What sets you apart?" What sets me apart is the way I think, and thinking that there must be a way around every horse, and having some empathy. How I don't understand how people can sit and watch some of these competitions, what have you, where tarps are tied to horses and they're bucking around, and I can't bear to watch it, and I don't understand how people can watch that and think it's right and good. And unless you've got that empathy, I can't give it to you. But surely people must start to see that, and that's all I'm trying to say to people. There's no need for all that,
Yeah.
And probably that's what sets me apart, I guess.
Yes. I'm thinking about, I'm sure, Neil, that you would have come across many horses, many horses and many standout horses. But is there one horse or even a bit of a case study of a horse that stood out for you during your career?
Oh, we had some. We had one particular champion camp drafter called Digger that won a lot of camp drafts back in the 70s and early 80s, and it was great. We won working classes and all sorts with him. I mean, he was a champion horse, and there are horses that, for whatever reason, he had outstanding ability and outstanding temperament, and they're unusual. They say you're lucky if you get one in your lifetime, and I was lucky to have him back then, and we had a couple of others as well, but I don't, I sometimes read someone said, "Oh, one horse taught me this or taught me that." I think one horse can only teach you so much.
Yep.
And it's the hundreds and hundreds of different horses that have taught me, that I've worked with. That, I think it's the multiples that really taught me.
Is that your proudest moment, winning camp drafts, or is it more focused on getting through and connecting with horses and, having that influence over a horse's behaviour? What's your proudest moment?
Oh, I'm satisfied or proud every time I work with a horse and he changes his attitude and he starts to relax and try and cooperate. I find that very, very, very satisfying, and that's what keeps me going, I guess, is the satisfaction of getting when a horse really starts to understand and become confident. I think that's what I think. Winning ribbons and what have you, and winning events only plays to our ego. What we should be doing is, some people, we've all seen them. My father used to say some people would cut their ears off if they thought they'd win them a ribbon, but it shouldn't be about that. It should be about, someone who didn't get a place, but he's happy to ride their horse and their horse is happy with him. I think that should be the important thing,
Sure. Thinking about you going out and doing clinics and teaching and everything else, and money aside, because money's always, a problem. Well, it's not always a problem, but everyone comes across money challenges. But other challenges to get you to, I suppose, have people understand your ways. What do you think's the biggest challenge along those lines?
Well, getting people to think, getting people to understand. And, a lot of so-called horse people, I don't even bother talking horses to them because they're just on a different wavelength. And the biggest challenge to me is getting through to people that the whole thing is about building your horse's confidence, going to your horse, showing him what you want. It's not about respect or leadership or any other of these things, because if your thinking's flawed, then you'll use that flawed thinking to put too much pressure on your horse or blame your horse when things go wrong. Oh, he doesn't respect me, so I've got a license to put more pressure on, or I've got to be his leader and show him who's boss. So, we should all be. The hardest part is to get through to people that, no, that's not the case. It's go to your horse, be nice to your horse, show him what you want, and change your whole way of thinking is very, very difficult, and that's what I find the hardest part is getting people to think.
So I'm thinking about, if you go out and do a clinic or do a workshop, just something common, if you come across and go, right, I'm doing this workshop, I haven't seen any of these people, I haven't seen any of the horses before. What's a common fault that you see with the riders, the trainers, handlers, and how can that be fixed?
Well, the biggest problem is that people are on the wrong wavelength. They're thinking about the things that don't matter. People say, oh, keep your heels down, keep your hands there, do this, do that. Meanwhile, the horse is just wandering around doing what he wants. The hardest part for people is to concentrate on the horse. The horse thinks very, very simply. All he's thinking about is, where am I moving? If I move over here, I can get closer to that horse. I can speed up on this side of the circle. Meanwhile, the person's riding around thinking about their heels and their hands and everything else. So the hardest part is to get the people to think on the same wavelength as the horse. And once you do that, you're on the road. But whatever you're not concentrating on your horse, and that's the hardest part, is to think all the time you're with your horse, not just when you're riding him or whatever, even when you're brushing him or cleaning out his stable or whatever you're doing. Every time you're near him, you're teaching him, and you've got to be thinking on the same level as him, and that's very, very difficult to do.
Okay. Have you got travel coming up? Have you got clinics coming up? What have you got coming up in the future?
No, I haven't. I'm not doing a lot of clinics anymore. We just got back from America where we did some presentations at the Equine Fair in Ohio. Okay. And couple of clinics.
Tell us a little bit about the your trip overseas then.
Oh, yeah, we just did some presentations there. The quite a big event in Ohio. I don't know, a couple 100,000 people come through over 4 days, and I just went through the basics of trying to. And what I found is there's a whole people are ready for what I'm saying. I guess it's a bit of a crusade. I'm saying to people, look, go to your horse, rub his head, be nice to him, and you'll get a change of attitude from your horse. And it was quite satisfying that there is a lot of people who are interested and are looking for a better way than the traditional, what's been sold as natural horsemanship or whatever. People are realising that that's not the way to go, and they are looking for a kinder way for their horse.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if you're going to summarise your philosophy, would it be along those lines? I'm sort of thinking if you summarise your philosophy almost into a lesson just in a sentence or two. Is that what you'd say? Or you tell me.
Well, my philosophy is very, very simple. The horse is very simple.
Yep.
And instead of trying to dominate him or be his boss, whatever, my philosophy is go to the horse, show him what you want. If whatever you're doing is not working, then that's your fault. Mm-hmm. And basically, you've got to learn to blame your horse and not blame yourself. And it's about building confidence. It's not about desensitising or this or it's about going to your horse, building confidence and showing him what you want. What you've got to remember is every time you go near your horse, you're teaching him a lesson. You can't tell your horse, I'm having a lesson now, but now I'm desensitising you, and that's different to a lesson. That's just nonsense. It doesn't work. You can't tell your horse that. So my philosophy is go to the horse, show him what you want, give him the answer before you set him a problem, and build his confidence. And it's as simple as that. Very, very simple.
Yeah.
And always blame yourself. I guess that's the big one.
Yeah. I think that's good. Now, Neil, for people who'd like to buy a copy of your book or get in contact with you, what's the best way to do that? Should they go to your website? Is it Fear-Free Horse Training? So is it?
They go to my website, fearfreehorsetraining.com. We've got a contact thing there, and you can look through the books and the online clinics. We've got the handling foal clinic and starting under saddle and fundamentals, and have a look at that, and all the information's there. And there's about nearly 200 blogs and articles for free that you can read there.
That's good. There's a lot of
information there. Yeah.
All right, no, that's absolutely brilliant. So thank you, and thank you again for your time to come along. So all your contact details are on the fearfreehorsetraining.com. They'll also be available on horsechats.com/Neil Davies, or else just go to horsechats.com, search for Neil, search for Davies, and you'll come up with the right page, and your contact details will be on the bottom of the page. So thanks, Neil, for chatting to us, and hopefully we might get to come back again and talk a little bit more detail about your book, which would be really good.
No worries.
Thank you very much, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com, and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.